Hey everyone. This particular left-wing media outlet, they seem to be constantly trying to hammer away at this collective ideology of this forced subjugation, of this collectivism, and trying to keep and maintain the established politics that has at least given them some kind of means to propagate their particular political ideology and brand of collectivism. But now, like a lot of those in the establishment media outlets and a lot of the collectivists, they seem to be willing to shed their snakeskin, or at least a layer, and reveal themselves a little bit more to the public. But what they don't recognize, what they don't realize is, while you might be, offering red meat to the inept, like to the indoctrinated, to the foolish and obedient serf subjects and slaves, that I recognize you've tried to hoping that's the only people that read your fucking bullshit articles, your bullshit narratives. But what you don't seem to realize is the rest of us are seeing the kind of rhetoric you're trying to espouse as well, and it's raising some serious alarm bells and telling us that you are not morally, philosophically, or even politically principled in any way. You're showing your true colors because you're desperate. But your desperation is making you weak. It's making your brain not function the way it really should be. And you're making a whole lot of mistakes. Headline, and this is from the Tyee: How Proportional Representation Empowers the Far Right. Rise of extremism is helped by electoral systems that give fringe party seats. I mean, the headline alone is already suggesting, well, wait a minute. So what you're saying is politics should be about confining allowable opinions and preferences to a very narrow band, right? So we can't have anything outside of the scope that we want to propagate and put forth. And they got a picture of a half a dozen folks standing there with a banner held up saying, "Stand up to UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party." Nigel Farage and his types. The ones that actually brought Brexit to fruition. No to racism. Beat back the bigots. That's what it says at the bottom portion of the sign that they're holding up. Radical right parties benefit from PR, proportional representation, in terms of their share of seats, which is what matters after all for the power, legitimacy, status, and resources that flow from elected officials. Professor Pippa Norris, Harvard University. The far right is rising in Europe, riding a wave of anti-immigrant Islamophobia, intolerance, and disturbing, sometimes outright neo-Nazi sentiments. And many European countries, proportional representation electoral systems are making it much easier for far-right politicians to win seats in parliaments, giving them legitimacy and the ability to amplify their hateful views to a much wider audience. Supporters of proportional representation in British Columbia, where a referendum that could change electoral systems will take place in the fall of 2018, vociferously disagree, but experts and evidence show disturbing trends that cannot be ignored. So once again, what are they saying? Well, like I say, they're basically saying there's only a certain segment of the population that we deem as allowable opinions, right? And anyone outside of those bounds, hey, fuck them. That's what this whole article is basically going to be saying. Is no. There's certain people and certain ideologies that should completely dominate and control the population of any particular country, and anyone that doesn't fucking meet that particular criteria or conform to that particular ideology or those ideologies, yeah, fuck them. Kick them to the curb and screw them. Deny them their ability to speak openly. Deny them any ability to have any representation in the political system. Fuck them. They're basically, I guess what they're saying is they're not even human. Hey, they're not even humans. Don't even look at them as they're actual human beings. Fuck them. We don't care about them. They're less than animals even. They really, what this person is suggesting is they're not even worthy to live in our country, I guess. So, like I say, think about the psychology. Think about the mentality of a person that puts forth and presents this kind of dialogue, this kind of narrative. Think about what they would do. Ask yourself, what would this person do if they were in charge, if they were king for a day, right? Think about that one. Think how long would it take before that authoritarian mindset set in? They're like, oh, well, I can actually impose my will on the people, right? Think about these people. As a longtime opponent of proportional representation, I led No BC STV, the group that defeated the single transferable vote electoral system in referenda in 2005 and 2009. I know proponents of proportional representation hate to discuss how these electoral systems open the doors to parliaments for extremists. But with recent outbreaks and far-right actions here in BC, including white supremacist flyers at the University of Victoria, as well as racist white pride posters seen this week in Burnaby and in Chilliwack, school trustees attacking the sexual orientation and gender identity program that supports lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students, there should be no doubt that this province has a substantial number of potential far-right voters. And adopting a proportional representation electoral system would potentially open the doors of the legislature to far-right politicians and their abhorrent views. So, like I say, they just want to be able to close the door and fuck these people. They don't get any say at the table. Sure, they have to function within their province or within their country, but who cares what they got to say, what the kind of preferences they have. Is no, we get to enforce and impose our wills on them, and they should never have any ability or any capacity to stand up for themselves. That's what this fucking idiot is saying, but not in those particular words, because if he used those particular words, well, we'd be able to understand completely. That's what I'm here for, right? To help show you, I can read between the lines and help point out the deviant aspects of the kind of narratives that they put forth and present. Under proportional representation, representatives can be elected in some countries like the Netherlands with less than 1% of the popular vote, although a 5% threshold is more common. But under the current first-past-the-post or majoritarian electoral system, politicians are only elected in geographical ridings based on who captures the most votes, marginalizing both far-right and far-left parties and leaving them unable to win seats. So like I said, this person is basically suggesting that you need to keep the first-past-the-post so that no one that you would consider, completely out your particular brand of politics or ideology, you don't want those people to have any say, even though they live in the country, have to be forced to pay in these collective socialized systems, right? Be taxed to fucking death. You want them to have taxation and central planning edicts and mandates imposed on them, but without them having any say or being able to speak out in opposition to anything that's imposed on them. You want them to be slaves, right, to some central planning ruling class without having any ability to speak out or in opposition to it. Like, holy fuck, these people, look at the stuff these people talk and espouse, all right? Vile, despicable, and like I say, the most authoritarian people. And they do predominantly come from the left side of the political spectrum. Now, I will acknowledge that there are those on the right side of the political spectrum that are almost as ideologically driven and dogmatist in their approach and collectivist in their approach and how they want to centrally plan, dictate, and micromanage the particular populations in their domestic country, the citizenry. But the left are the most vile and despicable as far as that goes, because they're the ones that come at you with complete pretenses of benevolence. A conservative at least will tell you that, oh, you should do this. So they're going to at least wag their fingers at you. Whereas a socialist or a leftist or a collectivist, they'll come at you with, no, not going to wag their hand at you. They're going to be like, oh, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. Oh, no, it's okay. They'll soothe your concerns with bullshit platitudes and stroke your ego. While, like I say, the minute you're out of sight, out of mind, they have no pretense. The benevolence completely goes out the window and their authoritarian mindset sets in. Trust me. These are the ones that you really have to watch out for. A guy running at you with a knife, you can recognize that potential danger. But someone that's running at you with a fucking dozen roses and saying they love you, and the minute you take that first sniff, you pass out because they laced those roses with some deadly concoction, those are the people you need to concern yourself with, because they're much more devious in their approach. Now, I don't need to read any more of this article, like I say. I mean, I could, but it's a fairly long, extensive article, and I will post a link to it in the description of the video below. But I mean, just think about what these people are saying. They're saying that, and I don't give a shit if they're people from the left or the right, or what they would deem far left or far right. I want to hear everybody's ideas. The minute I get to determine or dictate that nobody gets to have their ideas put forth and presented, that means I'm the authoritarian. That means I'm the one that doesn't care about individual freedoms, right? That means I'm trying to impose my will, my preferences, and my ideology on everyone. That makes me fully 100% an authoritarian, which is what these people are. But they want to come at you with some pretense of benevolence. And, oh, we're just trying to protect you from these, evil people from the left or the right. No. Free speech and the free market ideas. You allow them to flourish. You allow the spotlight to be shined on each and every one of them. And let the people have the personal, autonomous responsibility of determining which one aligns with them. Which one makes more sense? Which one is more logically, philosophically, and morally consistent? The minute someone tells you that you have to listen to me and me only and people of my ilk, that is the very basis of authoritarianism, of collectivism, of negating individual rights and freedoms. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.